everyone, welcome to Emily Kate Made This. I am Emily Kate and I'm coming to you from Berlin in Germany. Welcome to my knitting slash sewing slash crochet slash general crafty YouTube channel. Here I talk about a lot of vintage knitting, vintage things, 1940s, 50s things, vintage knitting machines, and modern stuff too. I also do modern stuff. Yeah, it's been a little while. I've fallen out of the rhythm of making videos regularly, and now I'm just sort of playing catch up. So if the video is a bit chaotic, it is, and that is why. I am trying to play catch up over the last 3 months, and I've tried to record this video once already, and it was so chaotic, and there were so many changes from when I recorded it to when I edited it 3 weeks later that I had to add all these additional notes, and there was so much editing to say what had changed and what I did that I thought, you know what, I'm just going to re-record this because this video makes no sense anymore. So this is it. This is take 2. I've already recorded the beginning of this video 3 times because I keep oversharing things that are irrelevant. So let us start again, 3rd time lucky. I'm going to start with what I'm wearing because this is the tee that I made and talked about in my last video, but I never showed you me wearing it. It's a bit difficult to get in frame, but I'm going to try. I will, if you want more details about this, I just go back to the last video because I won't go into great detail about it, but this is a tee that it's some kind of a mashup between it's like the modern Mount Pleasant tee shape. If I'll link it, put a picture here. The shaping of it is very similar to that, but I used the boat pattern from a Swedish vintage magazine that I got in Stockholm, and it's just based on an idea that I had when I was in Sweden sometime a couple of years ago, and I thought I really want a stripy vintage boat tee in blue and white, and this is it. I'm hoping to make a cardigan to go along with it, but possibly next year. We shall see. But if I can get in frame, this is it. Doesn't match the trousers I'm wearing whatsoever. Hopefully you could see that. There's really not enough space between you and that desk. But this is my tee. And yeah, again, if you want information, it's in the last video. But I did tell you that I would insert video footage and I would talk about it at the next video, and then there wasn't another video for, what, a month and a half? So if you remember, this is it. I do also have my ranunculus from that video that I need to put on. Hopefully I'll remember that at the end of this video. So let's go straight into my first finished object. This is a crochet finished object, but if you're not interested in crochet, that is fine. You can use the timestamps below and skip ahead. But I don't think that you need to be interested in crochet to find a granny square blanket interesting. It is simply just interesting all on its own. I'm really, really chuffed with this blanket. I didn't mean to make it a blanket. It started off very innocently as showing my friend how to make granny squares. But then I had a lot of this petite wool from We Are Knitters from when I started to knit in 2020, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I thought, oh, I'll just use that and make a couple of granny squares. And it turned out that I managed to use nearly all of that yarn because it turned into a blanket. I think I'd made about 6 squares when I thought, you know what, I have quite a lot of this yarn. I think I could make something big here. And I have so many granny squares. Like, I love making granny squares. Granny squares are like lifeblood to me. They're so soothing, so calming to make. And I'm looking at some right now. I just have them everywhere. So I wanted to use up this petite wool. I had an orange and a blue and a pink. Pink I couldn't manage to fit in there, it's too pink. So I did manage to use the blue and the orange, and I mixed it with a white cream colour that I had from many moons ago. I purchased this DK weight yarn and it was so much thicker than DK that it just didn't work in the projects that I was trying to make it work in. And so I used that. It's a bit strange because one is a super rustic yarn and the other is a super fluffy, super wash yarn, but somehow it does work. And so I used those and I just kept crocheting until I basically ran out of yarn. Then I got a bit inspired to go through. I've got some jars on a shelf next to me with scraps of miscellaneous, like leftovers from jumpers or whatever projects. And I thought, I'm just going to use those. They're all kind of worsted bulky weight, which was the same as the petite knitters yarn. So I just grabbed some scraps from there, grabbed some scraps from here, and the blanket just got bigger and bigger. I took it with me to Sweden and I thought I would manage to finish it there and be able to use it, but alas, no. I didn't bring all of the scraps that I needed because I thought I wouldn't need them. I did, and there was one square left that I needed to do, and I ran out of both the scraps and the cream yarn that I was using to join them all together. So I got some of my blanket done, but because of that, when I came back, I decided I'll just keep making the blanket bigger. So I used some more yarn that I found in various boxes that I have stashed away and just kept using that. And the cream I actually took from a cardigan. I made a cardigan way back when using this yarn, and it was I wanted to say it was a total failure, but it wasn't the yarn's fault per se. It's just it was not the correct yarn for a cardigan. So I have since ripped out said cardigan and reused that yarn to finish the blanket. And I also dismantled a hat. I'd made my husband a hat when I first started knitting, so 2020, and it just, the superwash yarn and the bulky yarn, it just like, it was so big I could basically get it to my shoulders. It was insane. So that has also been dismantled and put into the blanket. So it's an amalgamation of various things, projects, leftovers, here, this, that and the other. It's marvellous. And it weighs 1 kilo, 165 grams. So it was quite a nice wodge out of my stash. It's weirdly, it's weirdly not that big. It does not fit over my double bed, and it's quite a small double bed. But it's too big to go on this, so it's kind of too big and too small. It doesn't fit over the whole sofa, but if you put it on the back of the sofa, most of it just falls down the back and then you can't see it. So it's now on my little sofa bed thing in this room. Unfortunately, very much covered under lots of to-do projects, but I'll talk about that later. So I'm really, really happy with my blanket. I've never made a blanket before, and it was very, very fun, and I would quite like to make another one. But at the moment my plan is to make a long, thin granny square like blanket that I can put over the back of the sofa. So it doesn't go onto the part where you sit, but it will go onto the back where you rest your back. that is what I would like to make next. And I would also like to make a cover for the armrest, because I have a very bad habit of using a teapot and the tea drops down from the spout onto the sofa, and I have tried to wash it, but it still looks a bit not so great, full of tea stains. So I thought a granny square cover could look nice, but I am aware that if I just cover everything in this apartment with granny squares, it's going to look insane. But I'll worry about that then. So that is my first finished object. I do have another one, but I can't show you. I might have to insert a picture of it or a video. A little while ago, actually it could even be as far back as January, I'm not sure. Last Christmas I got given some very random yarn, and it was a cotton and wool mix, and like an orangey brown yellow colour, and I had absolutely no idea what to do with it. And I had, I think just under 500 grams. Actually, I really can't remember. If I can, I will put it here somewhere. It must have been about 400 grams. Anyway, my husband said he would love a jumper in it, but there wasn't enough for a jumper, so I said I'd make a tee. And it ended up being the most frustrating yarn to knit with. I tried it on my vintage knitting machine because it was very thin and a very coarse texture because of the cotton. And it got very, very stretchy. So even though I did a gauge swatch, like a decent size like this, once there was a whole jumper's worth of fabric, it just got so stretchy that I had to rip out the entire thing and redo it at a much smaller gauge. The sleeves, I could not for the life of me get them to sit into the body part of the t-shirt like in a nice way. Like the cotton just really showed up every single stitch and seam that I did. In the end, it turned into a vest, and I personally don't love the colour of the yarn or the texture, and so I'm not the biggest fan of the vest. To be honest, he's worn it once and pretends that he will wear it all the time, but it's probably more of like an underlayer for warmth. Like he'll wear it and then put a jumper on top and then it can be warm. That's the idea. But it does still count as a finished object, and I did get 350 grams out of my stash, so that's nice. Just not the nicest, prettiest finished object I've ever made. And I will briefly touch on some of the little things that I crocheted out, because they're not that interesting, but I'd like to talk about in detail. But they're interesting enough to just mention. I got some yarn out of my stash. I made some crochet pumpkins. I am trying to do some more crochet projects so that I can learn a few more stitches, because I've only learned like very few. There are some garments that I want to make, and I'd like to have a bit more idea of what I'm doing. So I made some pumpkins using some very old yarn that I had no idea what to do with because it was bright orange, and it just sat there for 5 years, coming up 6 years, and actually no, it's 7 years. I've had that yarn before I could knit or crochet. It was given to me with a book on crochet. So it's 7 years old, and I had no idea what to do with this orange yarn. So that has turned into pumpkins. I also made some little socks for my chairs that were supposed to be pumpkins, but I asked on Instagram and I asked some friends with pictures, what do you think this is? Nobody guessed. Nobody guessed what they were. So I'll put a video of them. Can you see pumpkins? Because I saw pumpkins when I made them, but absolutely nobody else has. I took this pattern from a YouTube video. They were making granny squares with a pumpkin border, and I just did the pumpkins on in the round to make them socks. And I'm wondering if it was just the fact that at the end of the granny square there's a white border, and I obviously didn't do the white border because they were socks. And maybe the border helps settle the pattern into it, I don't know. But they're still functional, and they're kind of colourful and happy, and they're just socks for my chairs, so that when you pull the chair out it doesn't scrape along the floor. So I did that. And I also have some granny square dragons. Why, you might ask? Good question. My brother is the answer to that. He's not somebody I can knit something for. He doesn't need anything. He's never cold. He doesn't wear knitwear. But he doesn't own a coat. He took all of the heat genes from my parents and left me without them, because he is so, like, he runs so warm and I run so cold. So I can't make him a scarf or a hat or socks or anything, because he just wears t-shirts and lightweight acrylic jumpers. So he does love a dragon, as do I. We are children at heart. So I decided I want to learn to make some different style granny square, like just different style granny squares. And I saw a pattern and I was very excited to use this pattern, but I don't know that I will share it because I don't have anything positive to say about it. I purchased a pattern to make a granny square dragon, but there was not a single part of that pattern that I could understand. There were so many instructions, like pages of instructions, but they were just so overcomplicated for me. The simplest of things, I spent ages trying to figure out what this stitch was for this granny square. It turns out it's just a completely different way to start a granny square. Instead of doing a magic loop, a magic circle, I can't remember, what is it called? Magic ring. Instead of a magic ring, you do something else, and you had to go into different parts of the stitch, and I just thought, I can't do this. And if I had never made a granny square in my life, I would have just assumed I can't make granny squares. Like, all the language was beyond me, and it felt like all the videos that went with it didn't match what was written, and it was just so overly complicated for such a simple thing, and yet I couldn't understand any of it. And in the end, I just used a bunch of different YouTube videos for different dragons and different creatures and put them all together and stuck these, like the head and the tail and everything, on top of the granny square that I made. I might revisit that pattern in the future when I've got a bit more crochet experience, but I've made multiple crochet projects over the years and I've never been that confused by the simplest of stitches. So I won't recommend that pattern yet. Maybe in the future I will, but the inspiration was at least there, and there was a different pattern that you could buy for the eggshell. So that one I could understand. That one was fine. So I made these cute little eggs and put the dragons inside. I'm not sure what he made of them because he was a bit confused, but I thought they were adorable. They were really, I was going to say really fun to make. There were moments of fun. Making the granny square part was fun. I used different YouTube videos to find some different types of granny squares, like Starburst and really fun ones, and I don't know the names. And I used some yarn that I bought in Sweden. I was on the hunt in the charity shops for like dragon coloured yarns, so I found a bag with a whole bunch of random balls of miscellaneous superwash yarn, and I bought that and held them together in different combinations to make different dragons and different eggs, and it was very fun to do that. So hopefully I have inserted some dragon footage. The idea is you put them on your finger and then you can like do this, but I made the loops a bit too small, so my brother's fingers are a lot bigger than mine, and I didn't really think that through. At the time, I was a bit stressed that I wouldn't get them done in time, because I was trying to make 7 so that he could like find one every day, but I only managed 4 or 5, and the eggs took about 2.5 hours each to make. So it all took a good like 35 hours or something to make these dragons and their eggs, and yeah, it took a lot longer than I anticipated, but I did it. I managed to get them all there for when I visited the UK, and he now has his pet dragons, and it got about 160 grams out of my stash. Not very much, not as much as I expected. Yeah, 163 grams. After all that stash busting, 163 grams of yarn out. Then, let us go back to some knitting. I went on a bit of an accessories kick. I decided this is the year I'm finally going to make a Miss Marple scarf. It's been on my radar for maybe 2-3 years, but I just had other things that I wanted to make. But I have this lovely yarn from a friend from New Zealand, and I tried to make, ironically, a different kind of keyhole Miss Marple scarf, but I ripped it out because it just didn't work, the colours didn't work, and then I still made a keyhole scarf with the same yarn, which I only realised on the last video that I recorded. I will try and put it on for you. The only problem is I didn't have enough for a hat, so it's this gorgeous colour, but I don't have anything else in this colour, so it doesn't actually go with my hats or gloves or shoes or my coat particularly. So after finally making it, thinking how marvellous it is, it doesn't actually match anything. So I'm not quite sure how. I think I'm going to have to look for another yarn that's this colour. It's just this one. It's the Ashford yarn, Ashford Wools. You know, the company that makes spinning wheels and looms. It's their yarn. Oh, it's an end. I thought that there was a stitch that had dropped. I am faffing now, trying to figure out how to put this on. It doesn't match my top. Maybe, I'm just going to hold up my Ranunculus jumper underneath so that it's not hidden by the stripy top I'm wearing. There we go, let's pretend I'm wearing this so you can see the scarf. Cute, huh? I think it's gorgeous. It's so soft and so nice. It took a lot longer to knit than I actually expected. I thought it would be a really quick knit. I think it took me just about a week. I have no idea if I'm on gauge or not. I followed a pattern by, oh, her name has just left me. I'm going to put a picture of her Instagram. She has an Instagram post where she made this knitting pattern, so you can scroll through and follow it. I just used that because it was the first time I came across a Miss Marple pattern and I had saved it, but I think there are more, and I think there's some on Ravelry, but I really like it. When I made it, it felt like it was strangling me, so I really stretched it out when I blocked it. It's superwash, so it got really long, and I thought, oh, that's great, it's really stretchy, it'll be fine. And when I went to put it on, this part was just down here, and I thought I'd ruined it. I'm not really used to making stuff in superwash. I have, and I do, like socks, but I don't typically use superwash, not enough to know its behaviour. And I'm also not somebody that generally stretches things, so yeah, I thought I'd ruined it. Then I decided I'll just put it back in the water and like smush it together and see if I can reshape it and reform it. Thank goodness I did, because now it is the correct size. I just need to figure out how to match this with anything I own, because it doesn't really. My coat is navy blue and the other one is like a brown check coat. Like, it doesn't really work, but it's so soft and so nice and I really like it. I would like to make another one just for fun, but I have quite a few other things on the radar at the moment, so potentially I will do that in the new year. But it is a really easy and fun knit, and that inspired me to make some more scarves. I thought, out of curiosity, how do you make one in crochet? I didn't do the same like, triangular shape, although I have seen one on YouTube. I thought I would go for a square one, just for something different. But I feel like this doesn't sit the same. Like, it doesn't have the same vibe. I want to love it, but I don't really. I followed a YouTube video and I just can't get it to sit evenly and like at my neck. I'm unsure about this one. I'm wondering, can I like tuck it or something? It just doesn't sit how I want it to. It was quite fun to make it. I can't get it to sit basically like the knitted one that I want. This only took about two days to make versus the other one, but obviously the other one was worth a week's worth of work because I prefer it. But there must be a way to get these to sit evenly and nicely. I just have to figure it out. But this was a yarn that was also a superwash yarn. My brother gave this to me when I visited the UK a couple of months ago, and I thought this will go with my white beret and it'll go with everything, but somehow it doesn't quite work. But I'm hoping I can figure something out. Unless you have ideas, pray do tell. And keeping with the scarf theme, I made this. I'm very chuffed with this. I probably should have knitted this section by hand in a garter to be more squishy and delightful, but I thought I would try using my vintage knitting machine and using the colourwork function, which is, it's a labour of love, shall we say. It's for every one row you go backwards and forwards and backwards. So you do 3 rows for every 1 row. Your knitting is reversed, so you only see the purl side. And you have to put needles into place by hand, and you have to choose your contrast colour and main colour and put certain ones into holes, go across, and then swap those round and go across. And I'm working on something now. It's only 60 stitches across, and it takes me between 2 and 3 minutes per row to do one, like just to knit 1 row. On a machine, it takes 2 to 3 minutes for 1 row. I am curious how long it would take to do by hand, that particular project, but it's fun to play with this function on my machine. So I used a Swedish chart from a different pattern that I have, and I just used that chart and made 2 rectangles. I didn't follow a pattern for this, I just made it up, and I am really pleased with it. I hadn't intended for it to look like 8s. I think I should have maybe done this little section again here, just to blend them, because it does look like 8. But oh well. I had originally tried to knit this by hand, but this is the BC Gun Similla Melange yarn, and I despise knitting with this yarn by hand. It's like the weirdest yarn. It's a fingering weight in like meterage and grams, but you're supposed to knit with like 4 5mm needles because it fluffs up, and I couldn't get this yarn to behave. I have knitted colourwork for years now, like what, 4 or 5 years. I can obviously purl, and I couldn't get the yarn just to stay on my needles when I was purling. Using 5mm needles felt horrible and clumsy in my hands. Being somebody who knits vintage, my max is like 3.5 probably millimeter needles. So using 5mm and trying to do colourwork flat, it was so clunky and uncomfortable. So that's when I decided I might try doing this on my knitting machine. And the knitting machine also doesn't love this yarn. It drops the stitches constantly. So that's another reason it takes about 2-3 minutes, because once you go across, some of the stitches drop from the hooks and I have to go and pick them up and re-ladder them up. It's a faffy yarn. It feels so nice, and it's like the colours are gorgeous and the texture is really nice. It's really like soft and has a bit more drape than I experienced on my jumper that I made with this yarn. But I don't like knitting with it in either shape or form, by hand or by machine. But it looks very nice, and I've had this yarn for quite some time now because I wanted to make a jumper, and then when I discovered how much I do not like knitting with it, I abandoned that idea. So the original idea was to try and make a bonnet to match this, but I've got a bit distracted and I'm currently knitting on a different pattern, and it'll still go. It's still the same yarn, red and white, same exact yarn. Hopefully they'll go, and if I have any leftovers, I will make a matching bonnet of some kind. But yeah, really chuffed with this. I love the colour, love playing with new functions on my knitting machine, and I know this I could have done a better job, could have done some garter, but oh well. And I mean I did moss stitch ribbing around. I picked up and went around. That's as much hand knitting I could do with this yarn. So yeah, a bit of a accessories kick at the moment, and I really want everything to match, and so far I've only managed to make 3 completely different coloured scarves. Now the last finished object seems to be causing havoc in my household. My husband absolutely hates this. And when I recorded the last video, the one I'm not publishing, this is the retake of it. When I recorded this section, I was telling you how marvellous this bonnet was, how perfect it was, and then I had put it on in such a strange way that it didn't match what I was saying. I don't know, I somehow flipped it and folded it and it was at a weird angle, and I'm telling you how great it is, and it didn't look great. Since then, I posted this on Instagram and I asked your opinions. And most people said they liked it, they were pro bonnet, and others said it's too small. So tell me what you think. My husband hates it, wishes I would burn it, but I really like it. But I can see people's point. I'm going to try and stretch it out a bit. It's my first vintage crochet project, and I used a yarn that I've had for so long because I didn't know what to do with it. Now let's see, when I edit this footage, does this look as bad as it did in the last one? This is a 1950s bonnet headband thing. I will try and get my So, what do you think? It's potentially too far back. I don't know. I thought when I finished it, it was great. But then, whenever I put it on, my husband is like, please take it off. He thinks I look like an old woman when I wear this. And I just think, but my ears are so cozy and warm that I love it. But I only see the front. When I've seen videos and pictures of the back, don't love it quite as much. And usually I have my hair up in braids that go across. So the shape sort of goes a bit like a square, like a bridge, like a square bridge. Square bridge? Yeah. It looks a bit different when I have my hair up versus my hair down. But it keeps my ears warm. But again, it's a completely different colour to everything else. Like, does this match any of those scarves? No. Does it match my coat? No. Does it match my shoes? No. Like, I don't know why I do this to myself. It's this purple lilac colour, and I bought 200 grams of this. It's a worsted weight yarn, and I thought I was going to make a jumper with this back when I purchased it 3-4 years ago. I have no idea what to do with it. It's a cotton and wool blend, and there's not enough for a jumper, but I just don't know what to do with it. It might turn into a granny square thing, blanket or something, because this colour is really nice, but it doesn't go with anything. And I actually think I'd prefer this in red and not this colour, just so that it would go with the other things. Even if this was in like this kind of colour, like then I could have matching and it might look a bit more cohesive. But I have been told it looks too small, like it should be wider. Basically it just should be longer and wider in order to look right. So I don't know, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I love a good bonnet. I do love to have something that covers my ears and I can tie up. And beanies just sort of grow off of the top of my head, they just climb off. But these, I just love that you can tie them on. Admittedly, I made this for warm ears, not to cover my whole head, but it does look a bit weird not covering the head, so I don't know. That one's done. Okay, I think I have talked about everything I made, so let me pop on my Ranunculus. This is one that I talked about again in my last video that I published, and I didn't wear it, it was too hot. And I said, oh, I'll talk about it next time. So, this is next time. So if you want any details about it, you can have a look at my last video. But this is just so you can see what it looks like. I made this using some yarn that I bought in Gotland a couple of years ago, and then I thought I would mix it with some mohair that I bought, I'm gonna say 2021, and I just bought this random 100 gram skein, which I actually think it's not 100 grams. I thought it was 100 grams, it was 50 grams, and therefore I had to buy extra yarn to finish the sleeves. And now I say that, I don't think I had to buy that. I had another ball. I had a random Knitting for Olive ball, 25 gram ball of yarn. So they were just like abandoned in different places because I don't, sort of random amounts of mohair with no purpose. So they both came together, mixed with my Gotland yarn, and made this very fluffy, warm, cozy ranunculus. I love it. I really love it. I really love the ranunculus pattern. The other day I was actually thinking, you know what, if I could just get rid of everything I own and wear ranunculus t-shirts and ranunculus jumpers as like uniform, wouldn't have to make any decisions, like happily wear them all the time. But the problem is I really love vintage knitwear. I love making and planning vintage knitwear, but to be honest, do I wear the vintage knitwear as much as this? Like the ranunculus pattern? No. I love wearing this so much. When I was in Gotland, we went back in September. Yes, we went back in September, just gone. And I realised when I was unpacking, I had packed my cotton, linen, ranunculus, the blue ranunculus, this ranunculus. I love this pattern so much. So this one I had just, I didn't follow gauge or anything, I just put the two yarns together and winged it to see what would happen. I'm very happy with it. So yes, if you want more details, watch the last video. I think I will wrap that up there because otherwise this video could get too long. I'm a little bit behind on things. I've been trying to, we're just going to go into a bit of a chat now. I've been trying to get myself organised. I'm going to take this off, it's too warm. There's actually snow outside my window. It's not like full-on snow, but a light dusting, and I'm too hot. I have been trying so hard to get myself to make more videos, and I'm finding it really difficult because I want to talk to you about loads, like I want to show you loads of my vintage knitting patterns and like just show you things that aren't necessarily knitting podcasts or crochet knitting podcasts, but I don't know, I never seem to give myself the time to do it and go through it and setting up the camera, and I have found that most of the time I don't manage to do the videos that I want because it takes so much work to set up cameras and I just don't want to do it. Like right now I'm making something on my knitting machine and I would have to get another couple of tripods and stick one on the desk and have it facing down, one behind me, like to get the camera to be at multiple angles so that it makes it an interesting video. And the amount of concentration that I need to put in to not messing up the colour work and doing the three rows, turning my little row counter, the idea of then faffing around with cameras and getting the perfect angle, It's not really high on my list, which bothers me because I want the video. I just don't have the brain space to make the kind of video I want. Same with sewing. I want to make these videos on sewing and sewing vintage patterns, but I don't want to get more tripods and put different phones around the room to video it. So I'm going to have stern words with myself for next year. I'm going to try and make more videos that are the ones that I want to make, and we'll see how it goes, because I have so much that I want to do on this channel, but I don't for one reason or another. So next year I will try, because I want to talk more about vintage stuff. There's a couple of things I always forget to mention, and I wanted to say it now. I try to like or heart and respond to comments that you send, and there are a few that I've noticed, there are a few specific people that I will get a notification that I received a comment, and I can see that like Nelly sent me this comment, but it then gets deleted by YouTube. I can't access it anywhere. It just came up in the notification, but it's not under the video, it's not in my comment section, and I can't reply to you. So Nelly, if you're watching and you think I'm super rude, I never reply to you. I'm sorry. I would love to reply to you, but your comment never shows up. And that happens for a couple of people. It's happened with Magda and multiple people. It just deletes your comments. So if I don't reply to you, I'm sorry, I do try, but sometimes the comments just disappear. I've actually tried to add people's names into this like safe users section just so that it would stop blocking them, but I've not had a comment from these people since, so I'm assuming that did not work. So yes, just to say sorry that I'm not replying, and thank you to everyone that does actually take the time to leave a comment and press like or send me messages on Ravelry or my email or Instagram. It's very nice to connect with other people out there in the world, because I'm sitting here in my apartment by my lonesome talking to a camera about vintage knitting. It's nice to actually know that there are people on the other end of it. So yes, thank you for watching, thank you for commenting and liking and subscribing and all that jazz, and I will hopefully see you sooner rather than later. I have plans, let's see if they go into action. So thank you again, and I will see you next time. Bye!